Hi, Shamara. Oh, my battery's a little low. I'm gonna plug in real quick. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good. I like your jean jacket. That feels very like summery to me, you know? Like,
Listen, they freeze me at work, so I have to I always have a
oh,
sweater or a jacket or something.
oh, it's too cold. I read an article that said that the temperatures they set in workplaces are for male bodies to be comfortable, and that women's bodies tend to be a little bit, just like on average, they tend to run like a little bit colder. So they like a little bit higher temperatures, like, a few degrees, like a man might prefer like 68 and then the woman's like 72, please, or whatever, I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was like on average, women prefer it to be a little bit warmer than men. I know my mom is always cold. Like even in the summer, she'll like bring sweaters with her everywhere and stuff.
That is me. I always
Yeah.
I
But
mean,
also, restaurants purposefully make it colder than comfortable because you eat more if you're cold. So,
I didn't know that.
isn't
Oh,
that interesting? Yeah. So it's like it's it's interesting. I get very fascinated with weird things and then I dive into the rabbit hole. So,
that is actually one I had never heard.
yeah, it's like a ploy, a restaurant ploy. They're like they'll order more if they're cold. So, yeah, I feel like movie theaters, I'm always freezing. So like it can be summertime and I'm in like a full on like hooded sweatshirt and like
I'll bring
sweatpants and
a
fuzzy
blanket.
socks.
I want to bring a blanket when we go to the movies,
Yeah,
honestly.
right. I feel like that makes it cozier too. Like then you feel like you're on the couch at home. So
Snuggling.
I've seen people do that. I'll do that like with a coat. I'll just like lay it on my lap, like it's a blankie. Yeah, so I feel like that's very normal that you're like, I'm a little chilly. I need an extra layer. So I feel like jean jackets are very in right now though, because I feel like I've seen, them making a big comeback. I feel like for a little while
I've been
there
hearing
weren't
it's
as
a
many.
millennial. It's like everybody who's a
A
millennial.
staple.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Ah, I feel like I've seen like younger people though, like teenagers and stuff wearing like the denim on denim and stuff. So,
it makes
yeah.
me feel. I'm not a millennial, so I
You're
have.
like, "Hey, if you mistake me for a millennial, I will take it."
I'm I'm I'm, I'm
I
in
would
for
have guessed you were a millennial. That would have been my guess.
no, no, definitely Generation X here. Yeah.
Well, that's all right. You're faking it well.
I don't know. I feel like by the end of the day, I'm like, oh gosh, I am starting to look cute. The morning time,
Oh, I think you look really young. I
I,
really genuinely do. Like I genuinely thought you were like, I don't know, maybe like 28 or something or 30. Because I knew too you have like an 8-year-old son, so that, plays into it too. But I think you look very
yeah,
young, so
but I had him at 37. I had him at 38, actually.
I'm 36 and we have just started trying for kids, so mine will be the same. I was like, I'm gonna be like pretty old when my kids are getting married and stuff. Like I was like, huh. Because my mom and like grandparents, she got married at 19 and like my grandparents got married at like 20. And so I'm like,
Listen,
people got married young and I'm like, I knew 4 of my great grandparents like well. So I'm like, hmm. I'm like, I don't know. I probably won't meet my great grandkids. But the thing is, though, I'm like, people live a long time now. I could live to be 120. Who knows?
I mean, they're doing all this new peptide stuff. You might, live to be
Yeah.
200 at this point.
Yeah. And I mean, with like modern skincare, I'm like, I can look 30 for till I'm 60 or something,
This
you know?
is this is
As long as you just keep taking like estrogen supplements, I feel like you're good for a while.
That's what they say, drink a lot of water and
You
stay
know,
stay
sun
hydrated.
protection. I've started wearing hats.
Oh, really going for it.
Yeah, my mom, she says the secret is to keep dancing, which my grandma now is like 82 or something. She still does clogging and goes line dancing, and they go
I
do like two-step and stuff. Like grandpa dances with her, and he takes her out and they go dancing. And I'm like, I mean, she's doing great. She has like a little bit of dementia starting, but I'm like, she's actually doing very well. So I'm
yeah,
like, my mom looks amazing. I'm like, I feel like looks like she's in her 40s to me. Like she looks really good and she like does ballroom dancing all the time. So I'm like, maybe
yeah.
dancing is the key. Might
Is
be.
your husband into dancing?
We did do a little bit. We did like a Groupon ballroom package and I loved it. It was so fun. And then we were like, maybe we'll take a little break because we have like some family things and travel and stuff. And then he was like, I'm so, so glad that we're not still doing it. I was like, really? And he was like, it was so stressful. He was like, I felt like I had to like practice on my own and have all the steps planned in my head. And he was like, I'd finally be getting something and she'd be like, here's a new step. And he was like, can't I just like enjoy the ones I've learned already? I was like, oh, I'm sorry, babe. I was like, I just follow. And he was like, I know. And you did dance classes growing up and stuff. I was like, yeah. I was like, well, it's nice for me. I just get to be like held by my honey and like, we
Guided around.
but I want to chit chat and stuff, and he's just like focused. He's like, I have to figure out what to do next. Do I go this way or this way? Do I angle my foot here? I'm like, he's like, I can't run you into someone else. I have to like make sure I adjust trajectory. I was like,
Just
that's
like
fair. I just
informal,
follow and trust him.
about just informal dancing in the kitchen. That's
I know, yeah, yeah. We do that sometimes. I'll be like, "You want to dance with me?" And sometimes we'll practice. We'll like just do some of our ballroom, simple little ballroom steps. So,
it
and it's
is.
funny because we'll sometimes be randomly somewhere and music will be playing and he'll be like, "Oh, this would be a foxtrot," or we could do a Roomba to this or whatever. Like, great.
Oh, Groupon.
Yes, a Groupon. Yeah, we got to do, I don't know, like six private lessons and then like three group dance things, something like that. I don't know. It's pretty fun. I thought it was fun. So now we have the basics where we don't look, like we have no idea what we're doing. It's like we can do a little bit. We're definitely beginners, but we can get out and do a little dancing. So So, he can feel like, I know what to do with myself. We had gone to a few family weddings where he was like, oh, I don't know how to dance. And I was like, well, I'm going to go dance with your cousins. Bye. So now we can dance together and it's not just like middle school slow dancing. Yeah, it really wasn't very expensive either. It was pretty good deal. So
Sounds like your family weddings are very different from my family. There might be an electric slide or two.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, he doesn't really do that either. I definitely will. Oh, I mean, yeah, like his cousin got married in Atlanta like a year ago and we went and everybody's just like
Yeah,
you know
that sounds
rocking out, just out there being silly. I'm cool with that. I'm happy with anything. I don't claim to be great at ballroom. I just can sort of pretend. I'm like, move me where you want, and I will do my best to follow, and I'll just stand tall and smile the whole time.
but
And
that's
let
a
you push me around, and if I trip a little, that's okay. I'll just fumble for a second, and then I'll find my feet.
I mean, I'm really bad at following.
Yeah, I do want to lead. I feel like if he and I changed parts, we'd both actually be happier. So maybe we should.
2025.
Yeah, that's the comment I would get at swing dances in college. They were like, "Stop leading." And I'd be like, "Ugh." Because the girl's always slightly behind the beat because they move on the beat and then you're slightly behind. And I was like, I'm listening to the music and I want to move with it. So I'd be like anticipating and they'd be like, that is not what we're doing next. Stop leading. And I'd be like,
I have this problem.
yeah. So maybe that's the thing. Maybe we're just gonna switch parts and we'd all be happier. He wouldn't feel that pressure to like do homework and prep beforehand and like another thing to do on the to-do list, you know? But I am like, but it makes me happy. He's like, but can't we do something else that you like go for a bike ride together that I don't have homework for? So, yeah, it's all good. So, how has the week gone? And as we're diving in today, what are you thinking you would like to focus on primarily, in terms of characters and accents? Are we wanting to kind of stick with what we were working on last time? Are you thinking you want to branch into some new territory? What do you think?
Well, I did notice that I have been watching several shows with accents. So
Nice. Very cool. Love to hear that.
I'm watching Young Sheldon. It's
Oh, I love that one. It's so cute. My husband's like, I don't want to watch this with you. So I just watch without him, but it makes me laugh.
it's very funny. I think it's hilarious. And
It's adorable and they're like endearing. I'm like, there's not a single character I dislike on this show.
I agree. And they have very Texas accents,
They do, yes.
except for
Mhm.
even Sheldon a little bit.
A little bit. He tries to be very proper, a
Proper.
proper little young man. But yes, yes. Oh, that's such a fun show. I feel like it's probably got a pretty big following too, just, because of Big Bang Theory. People know it, but I think it's adorable. It's like a little, you know, family sitcom, but then you already have a beloved character, and then, you just get to love them even more, you know?
I thought it was
Yeah.
it's well done. I think it
Yeah.
even my son thinks like we all think it's funny for different reasons.
Yeah, right. And you can kind of relate to different characters more or less. Or I feel like too, all the characters can kind of like remind you of somebody that you know, or, personality wise. And I feel like too, it's always fun how they kind of lean into certain jokes for certain characters too. It's like, okay, we know that it's kind of a caricature, not like a real like person. But I think it's fun to kind of lean into the jokes a little bit, and that's cool too. Like you can watch it with your son because it's a pretty, clean show generally. Like the grandma's a little, she's a little edgy, but that's okay.
And I,
It's like, hey, when you're that old, you can do what you want to.
that is true. But I also say, I mean, I want my child to be wholesome, but I also don't want them
Yeah.
to not know what real life is like.
Right. I know. Yeah. I feel like, yeah, it can be very like shocking. I went to a small Baptist college for undergrad, and it was like my first time out in the world alone, and I did live a pretty sheltered life growing up, and then I was like, oh, the world is not what I thought it was. I mean, I wasn't even allowed to watch Nickelodeon because it was too racy, so it was like, yeah, like I couldn't read Harry Potter, so
Oh,
I didn't tell my mom. I had already read the first book in school with my class. Like my teacher read it to us before she knew Harry Potter existed. So I was like, okay. And I just didn't read the others until I no longer lived at home. And then I read them all.
funny. I remember when it came out in Colorado Springs. We had, I'm from Colorado, and
Yeah.
Focus on the Family is like a
Oh,
really
yes.
huge, like
Huge. I grew up listening to Adventures in
top.
Odyssey. Yes. And getting Brio, the teen girl magazine, and all the things.
When Harry Potter was released, they had a huge protest, and they made all of the bookstores like take it out of like the immediate advertising. Like, yeah, like it was that was a very big um, Like I was
Okay.
older, I was older, so I was like, what is the big deal? Like it's just a book,
Right.
like, but
I also feel like the first book is so benign. And I'm like, what are you sheltering your kids from? That people in the world are abusive sometimes? Like,
I
yeah,
think
it's
they
that whole like,
magic and
yeah. And then like for my mom, it was like, you don't know clearly like good and bad because they're all using the same magic. And I was like, but it's not the same magic, actually. Like, there is magic you don't do that's like illegal to do for reasons, you know? So yeah, I feel like it's like propaganda. She was told to not let us read it, so we weren't allowed to. But I also felt like the books grew with the audience. Like I felt like I was kind of the target audience age. And so like my friends are all reading it, and I feel like the books definitely matured like at the rate that the readers would be too. So to me, I'm like, I feel like it was fine, but that's just me. But I also am very like, I don't know that I'm gonna try to really hide anything from my kids. Like, I feel like I'm gonna be like, hey, these things exist in the world. And if you have questions about it, let's talk about it. Like, I remember coming home from school one day and asking my mom what the F word was. I was about to say it and then I was like, wait, the F word was. And she was like, where did you hear that? And I like told her and she was like, okay. And I like was like, well, they said this. And she was like, okay, well, it's a really ugly way of talking about sexual intercourse. And I was like, oh, okay. And so she was like, so like, do you think there's a reason that you'd want to use that word? And I was like, no. I was like 8. I'm
yeah,
like, wow, I didn't hear the word till I was 8. That's go parents. But yeah, I was very like, yeah, no, I don't think I'll be saying that. But she was like, yeah, it's just like an ugly way of talking about this. And I was like, okay. And I'm like, I'm pretty proud of her for just like being totally honest about it. I was like thinking back, I was like, good job, mom. Because a lot of things it was just like, uh,
off limit.
shelter. Yeah, exactly. So yeah.
So we try to be as like if Caleb asks us, we are completely honest.
Yeah.
But we also have like these are adult things, and when you have
Yes.
a job and when you
Right.
pay your
Yeah.
own bills, then you get to be able to do those types of things. But until then, that's you're not an adult, so you don't get.
Yeah. I love that though, because you're telling them why. That was like my favorite question as a kid. I'd be like, but why? And I constantly was asking, why? Why do we do it this way? Well, why do we have this rule? And my husband's very like, well, just explain to them our reasoning and be like, here is why we have this rule. And like, this is for a safety thing, or this is, something that's more mature and like grown-ups do. But kids should be doing XYZ. And like when you're a little bit older, you can do those things too. And you know, like I told a kid, he was like, I want to stay a kid. He's one of my students, but he's turning 9. And he was like, I don't want to grow up. I want to stay a kid. I like being a kid. And for his birthday it was the sweetest. He like was like, I don't want to party. I just want a day special with mom. So they're just having a mom and son day. And they're gonna like go bowling and they're going to a play. And like I was like, this is adorable. He was like, I just want some time with mom. Just me and mom. I was like, that's sweet. And he was like, I don't want to get big. I want to stay a kid. And I was like, but hey, when you're a grown up, you can eat pizza every single day if you want. And he was like, I still
Kind of
don't know if
cool.
it's worth it, but that was pretty cool. I was like, you can stay up late watching cartoons. You might be tired the next day, but
You
you
can
can
do
do it
it.
if you want. You can wear the same shirt 5 days in a row. No one will make you change it. You might smell bad and people might not want to be around you, but you can do it.
Wash it yourself. It doesn't have
Exactly.
to be a
Suddenly you have choice.
dirty fame shirt.
Yeah. I think it's like, he's like, but I like living with my mom. She takes care of me. It's nice. He's like, I don't want to have to grow up and be a person with responsibilities and a job.
Kids are different. These kids are different these days. They
Yeah.
really recognize that it's better
Yeah.
to stay a child. Like my son says the same thing. He's like, I don't want to grow up. I don't want to have
Yeah.
a job. I don't want to have to like realizes that there's
He gets
responsibility.
structure, he's safe, you provide for him. Yeah. Yeah,
That's
and
like
it's like
when I
it's
was a
pretty
kid, I
smart,
couldn't wait to be grown up.
right?
I don't know. So I'm like, am I doing something wrong? Is it too cushy?
I think it's the awareness. Like, I think kids now have access to so much information readily. Like, I would ask my mom things and she'd be like, we'll have to write it down and go to the library and we'll look it up? And now it's just like you got all that information immediately. And so I feel like part of it is just that, like, the world is bigger because it's all right there online all the time. And like, I had a computer in my house, but I'm like, it was slow. And I mean, like as a little kid, it was very like, we'll go to the library and we'll find out. We'll look in the encyclopedia because we did not have our own encyclopedias and that kind of thing. So I feel like part of it probably is just like all the information overload that they just learn it all the time. And so, yeah, the world probably seems a lot bigger and scarier, I would guess. Instead of like adventure awaits, it's like it's not really a mystery and it seems hard.
It's doom and gloom. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're working on those accents. So were you thinking you might want to try Texas then?
I was just saying that I noticed that
You've been watching a lot of shows that have them. Well, one of the things I really like about a Southern accent is that it has a lot of similarities with a British. So I feel like those are actually two that you can kind of work on at the same time and go, these are the same and these are different, right? So these are similarities and these are the things that are different from each other. Like they both tend to have this kind of lilt to them, like pop into the loo, like they tend to have this kind of like lilty kind of feel to them. And then it's like hey y'all, how y'all doing today? Like they both have that kind of lilty flow. And if you think of like the original colonies, like people in England maybe came over and settled in Georgia, and then, it kind of evolved from there. Um, and actually, some researchers say that Americans talk more like how British people originally spoke, and then they wanted to be more posh than us. So they like started speaking a little differently. But my theory is that like there are so many similarities with a Southern and a British because of like people settling, and then, it evolves from there, but there are some similarities. Um,
I
the
read that
lilt, then the D's and T's and the R's, we can consider those. The R's are more the deep South, whereas Texas is going to be more of the hard R's, more like an Irish, more of the hard R, like that tiger is real scary, mom, or mama. Probably not. Mom would be more like pass a pop, like you live in the Midwest or something. Um, you'd probably say something like, what kind of Coke do you want? Kind of a thing. For some reason in the South, they tend to say Coke for all soda. What kind of Coke? So probably because the world of Coke is in Georgia, is my guess. Um, so yeah, their like headquarters is there. But yeah, so there are similarities like mm, and then there are differences. I would say like with a British, you tend to have more like those clean final consonants. Um, like we're having tots for breakfast, the R or whatever. Um, at tea time, we'll be in the drawing room, like more of that. And I feel like with more of the Texas twang, you're going to have more of like, dad. You're going to have more of those final consonants like that, but then the R's will be the difference. More like Deep South will have more the same R kind of stylistic thing, whereas a little more like Irish kind of feel with the hard R's in Texas. So we're looking for similarities and differences. The British is going to be a little bit more of that warm kind of back here feeling, which is more of that deep south, whereas Texas is going to be a little bit brighter. Um, which again, you could think a more similarity with like an Irish kind of feel I haven't done one for a little bit, so I'm like, wait a minute, I gotta like get it in my mouth. But it's a little more bitey and forward and bright, and the hard R's, so that would be more similar there. Um, if we think of more of that London kind of sound, the more warm, it's interesting because it's like a south and south. So you think like deep south is more like southern England. And then if you think of more like the Texas twang, it's probably a little more similar to a more northern Great Britain kind of sound, which makes sense because you've got like, Scottish, Welsh, Irish is all going to be up there more. Um, so yeah. I think that we're looking at similarities and differences. Um, it does have some of that drawl to it, which is kind of similar to, we get a little bit of a feeling like a drawl in Great Britain as well. So that's going to be a little bit similar. So we're looking for similarities and differences in how we would say it. You also are going to have more nasality with Texas. It's going to sit a little more here. Think a little more like Loretta Lynn rather than Patsy Cline. Patsy Cline's more walking after midnight, more of that like deep south feeling, right? Whereas Loretta Lynn's more like in the sweet by and by, right? More nasally. So Texas is going to have more of that as well, right? Um, so yeah, thinking about those kind of things. Cockney is going to be a little bit more nasality, whereas that posh royal family sound more back here, no nasality. So it also kind of depends on the dialect in England as well, right? So, yeah, so we look for similarities and differences. So I think it would help if we have a script that would work well for that. Who is your favorite character in Young Sheldon?
Probably the mother.
The mother. You probably can relate, right? Because you're like, I love my family. I take care of them. I do my best. And she's very nurturing and just always like there for her babies, especially her little boy. She's like, my baby boy needs me. So yeah, so the mom. So maybe we can try to find, if we can't find a monologue for her, then like something similar. And I always find it's really helpful to have something that is like written to have a twang with it. Just because, it's like, it just sits better. You'll have certain phrases, right? Like, oh, okay, I found one for her actually, which is great. Um, things like, God bless him, or like asking questions. Um, so like asking, they actually like wrote that in here. Um, or mm, things like the good Lord, um, yeah. So, like just subtle things like grow up knowing he's loved, nothing to be enough. Like he doesn't have to prove nothing, those kind of things, where it's written to flow that way. Whereas if I take something that's written to be more like a New Yorker or something, it's just going to feel weird. It's going to be like, this is odd, and we can do it, but it's going to feel strange. So this is just slightly longer than fits. So I just broke it up into two. Um, so she's gonna have nasality. I really like that you have things like he's nine, so like nine. That's a word that is going to be really easy to find the nasality because the N's, the M's, the ings are all going to be more nasal automatically. Like, you know, you can play with no, you can use that to kind of find it. And I'd probably do instead of like, more like instead like a yeah, no. Sometimes I'll actually rewrite it, like write it out phonetically for myself, and having the visual can help as well. But let's try and I feel like they don't exaggerate the accents in the show. Um, I've definitely heard people, if you listen to somebody like Victoria Osteen or something, she's gonna have that real strong Texas, like, praise the Lord, you know, we're here, we're here in the house of God today. Praise the Lord. Like it's gonna be a little exaggerated. Whereas I feel like when you're in entertainment, they can sometimes tone down a little bit on purpose to make it a little more accessible to other people. But I feel like when I'm trying to learn something, I try to lean in a little bit more. I think Beth Moore is another that lives in Texas. I just think of them because I grew up, in church all the time. So I'm like, I think of them, because I'm like, Texas. Texas ladies that popped to mind. Um, I actually had neighbors in California who were from Texas who moved there and were our neighbors. They hated it and moved back to Texas after 2 years. But they came for a job and then the wife was miserable and was like, I want to go home. So they ended up moving away. But they were great. But she talked a little more with that like and sometimes I wonder if I'm doing it right. I pray on it. My friend Christina Kennedy in college, she was a theater major, so hers was a little more tame because she, was training her voice all the time. So it kind of she was from Texas, but she was from Houston, so a city, less rural, and then she also was in theater, so training her voice all the time. Um, so hers was a little more like mellowed. So yeah, so I would say for the practice though, lean into it more, give me patience. Like really, really lean into it right now. Cause I would probably instead of because Lord knows, right? So thinking about how you would change it for that. All right, let's just try it. Channeling your Mary Cooper.
All right, let me just read it real quick. I'm sorry.
You're good.
All right. You know, raising a boy like Sheldon is a full-time job and then some. I mean, God bless him. He's brilliant,
Mhm.
smarter than all of us put together. But he came into this world asking questions no one had answers for, and he hasn't stopped since. Last night, he stayed up until 3 a.m. calculating how long it would take to terraform Mars. I told him he needed to go to sleep, and he said, sleep is for carbon based organisms who lack ambition? He's 9. I didn't know if you wanted me to keep
Yeah,
going.
no, that was awesome. I love it. That's a good spot to stop at. Sometimes I'll do like a smaller chunk and try to conquer it first. Yeah. Really nice. I really like too. Certain parts will flow a little bit faster and then you'll kind of draw out certain moments too, right? Um, so I really like how you're stretching on certain vowels. Um, but then other times we maybe do less vowel, like hasn't, you know, and he hasn't stopped, like that. I feel like is more consonants. Like we don't really stretch out the vowels there. But then like last night, so you have these moments where you sort of draw it out more, which I think you're doing really, really nicely with. That was something I really enjoyed. I also thought you did a really nice job of kind of channeling her personality with it. I thought that was very nicely done. I was like, oh, I could totally see her saying it like that. Very nice. Yeah, and some of these phrases, like I'm like, oh, I think I've heard her say that phrase, in the show or whatnot. So Yeah. So, and like, you would probably say like calculating, kind of something like that, but, calculating, where you're doing a really nice job of deleting sounds that she wouldn't add in, like sometimes they're missing. But then, we have things like a take to terraform Mars, and I feel like that maybe she'd take a little more time on because she might even be like, what does that even mean? I just know he said it, kind of a thing. Like, and when you said like carbon-based organisms, like those kind of weird things you took more time on because it's like, I would never say these words. So I really liked the kind of like glossing through moments and the deleting of certain sounds and then the stretching out moments as well. Um, yeah, like I feel like, moments like God bless him. I feel like she might even just be like, bless him. Like just not even say the God bless him, but just like, except that her faith is so important to her that she probably would say like, God bless him. She'd draw it out a bit more. Um, but yeah, like a lot of the time, I feel like, people in Texas might just be like, bless her heart, bless him, that kind of thing. Um, like things that she would say more often, you can kind of gloss through a little bit more. What were the things you liked best about it?
Um, I like that it's written with asking and I don't know, like I like
Yeah.
that it was written for a Southern
Yeah.
voice, in a Southern voice because I think it makes it easier than me having to try to, figure out when to, I don't know, I mean, some of it you figure it out, but other things
Yeah.
it's
I like
obvious.
that too. Yeah, that's something that I feel like I like too. Um, yeah, I agree with that thought. Let's see. So, what would we want to change about it? What do you feel like maybe was kind of like lacking, or we could do more with it?
Um, I mean, I mean, I just need to practice. So the
Yeah,
laughing,
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
I mean, I think she could laugh at Sheldon a little bit. She thinks he's funny too, I think. Alrighty, I found a couple others that I think also could be fun that are all characters in the show. So the next one's the grandma. Hers is one chunk, and then the last two chunks is his twin sister. So yeah, so let's stay focused on that first one for now. Um, I feel like Mary tends to kind of swallow her sound a little bit more, kind of like the gargling marbles feeling at times. Like she'll drop back here every now and then, but she will then come back up to the nasality. Whereas like the grandma tends to keep it, Mima tends to stay just kind of nasal the whole time. I feel like Mary tends to kind of drop back, and then she'll have moments where she comes forward, but then she'll have moments where it drops back again. So playing with that kind of like back and forth a little bit more. We have vowels that tend to be brighter naturally, like e's, a's, ah, and then vowels that tend to be warmer naturally, like o's, oohs, ahs. So those want to drop back, like, that probably wants to sit more here. Raisin, that's probably going to be one that wants to be more forward and in the nose. Yeah. So just kind of like let yourself explore that kind of front to back feeling. Yeah.
you're asking a lot.
You're good. That's okay. We're just experimenting right now. So just try to observe that a little bit more.
So same again.
Yeah. Yep. Same section. So we'll stop at the nine.
You know, raising a boy like Sheldon is a full-time job and then some. I mean, God bless him. He's brilliant, smarter than all of us put together. But he came into this world asking questions no one had answers for. And he hasn't stopped since. Last night, he stayed up until 3 a.m. calculating how long it would take to terraform Mars. I told him he needed to get to sleep. And he said, sleep is for carbon based organisms who lack ambition? He's 9.
Nice. Good. Yes, love it. And I feel like too, when you do the quotes of what he said, I really liked how you tried to sound more like him saying it. Sleep is for carbon. Like it was like you were kind of trying to say it the way he said it. Because you're like, I don't know how I would say that. I don't even know what it means, right? Nice, good. Yeah, I feel like you can lean even more into that slower pace, drawing out the words a bit more. So feel like you can take your time. And you can do even more pitch variety. It can rise more dramatically on a statement. It can kind of trail off at the end, giving it a more casual musical tone at times. Um, you can, sometimes it would be weird for us to say a statement like a question, but I feel like she could, with the Texas accent, say a statement, but kind of lift at the end. So, like, raising a boy like Sheldon, it's a full-time job and then some. Like, you can go up at the end, even though, like, we would feel like I'm asking a question if I raise at the end, right? So you can play with that a little more. And then think of kind of stressing keywords more heavily than you would with that general American accent. So like, what words would I think are the most important kind of thing? Like, he stayed up till 3 a.m. Like I might lean more into that. Calculating how long it would take to terraform Mars. Maybe I exaggerate that a little more. I told him he needed to get to sleep, and he said, like he's 9, like so really exaggerate the stressing of certain words as well. Yeah. Can we do that one more
Sure.
time?
You know, raising a boy like Sheldon is a full-time job and then some. I mean, God bless him. He's brilliant, smarter than any of us put together. I'm not saying this right. I'm just making up my own stuff now.
You're
I
good.
mean, I mean, God bless him. He's brilliant, smarter than all of us put together. But he came into this world asking questions no one had answers for, and he hasn't stopped since. Last night he stayed up till 3 a.m. calculating how long it would take to terraform Mars. I told him he needed to get to sleep. And he said, sleep is for carbon based organisms who lack ambition. He's 9.
Nice. Good. Excellent. All right. So, how'd you feel about that one? I liked it even better personally.
Really? I don't know. It's so funny because I was like, I feel like the first one was the best one because I just,
Oh, you just kind of left yourself alone more and just kind of channeled the character.
yeah, I want
Ah, so you might be kind of overthinking a little bit. But what I liked about it was that you were playing and experimenting more. And so it was really fun because it was like you tried totally new things. And so I was like, oh, this is really fun and like playful. And I think to conquer anything in acting, you have to be willing to go there to channel that like sense of play and curiosity and experimenting and being like, why not? Let's try it. So that was the part I really loved is that it kind of like stretched you out of your comfort zone a little bit more, which I thought was great. And it also just was very fun. So I also wanted to mention just a few other things that I think would help to think about. So the vowels, I feel like are something to really focus on. The diphthong shift, like we'd normally do like I said so, right? And they do more like ah. Like they don't really do the diphthong. So like time, we do time, right? They just do tom. It's almost like Tom and Jerry, right? Time, right? They just kind of hold the one vowel. So we kind of eliminate that diphthong. Um, the E can be flattened a bit. So like pen sounds a little more like pin. So if you think like back when our grandparents were young, they'd like pin their girlfriend. They'd be like, here's my pin, to be like, she's my girl, or like in Texas, you could think more like if they're saying I wrote with a pen, like, you know, Missy, why can't I erase this wrong answer so you can redo this math problem? I wrote with a pen, so she would say like, pin instead of pen. We'd say like, well, I used a pen, and she'd say more like, I used a pen, you know. So think it instead of eh. The long O, you can draw it out even more and even more exaggerated of around, like go home. Go home. So think of the O's really exaggerating. Go home. I feel like the grandma Mima's probably said that many a time in the show. Um, Another that you can think of is like cat and can sound more like eh, or a, more like a, I think. So like um can't could be like, I can't. Oh, I've definitely heard the older brother say that. I can't. Like, can you do this? I can't. I'm doing this, right? Um, can't or like can comes out a little more like cane, you know. I uh I can, or like you could also do like I can do it. Can could be more like that. I can do it. I can't. I'm busy. I got plans, So the vowels are going to be something that really gives it that Texasy flavor. Yeah. So like no one, that exaggerated the no. No. And then some. God bless, let's see. This world that no one had answers for. Really round on like four. Long. How calculating how long it would take to take, I told him. Really exaggerate those round shapes. Yeah. Okay, let's try it. One more time.
All right.
Vowels.
You know, raising a boy like Sheldon is a full-time job and then some. I mean, God bless him. He's brilliant, smarter than all of us put together. But he came into this world asking questions no one had answers for, and he hasn't stopped since. Last night, he stayed up till 3 a.m. calculating how long it would take to terraform Mars. I told him he needed to get to sleep, and he said, sleep is for carbon based organisms who lack ambition. He's 9.
Nice. Very good. Yes, I love it. Yeah. So playing a little bit more with those vowels is gonna give it more of that Texasy sound. Beautiful.
Oh, I'm
Um,
listen and I will try.
Yeah. I would also say you can drop the G's as a general rule. So like going to the store, going to the store. I'm doing it right now. I'm doing it right now. So like just any G's at the end, um, like of an ing, just doing, going, bringing, just drop that G. Um, and then the R is strong, but it can soften at the ends of certain words. So like water, water, or sometimes they might say water. So it kind of depends on the person, but I feel like for Texas, I'd probably do more the water. But then notice it's not going to be a T, water, 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 and that's going to be more rounded as well, right? Um, so like you can try just like short individual phrases, things like, well, now that's just the way it is, or like, I reckon we'll see, or ain't nothing wrong with that, or bless your heart, so think of just like one-liners kind of things. So maybe as you're watching the show, like I feel like the grandma has little funny one-liners a lot. So you could maybe like try to jot down some of those one-liners and then try to say it the way, they say it in the show. Because like Sheldon can just, and then it's like his mom or his dad or, well, ain't that something, like.
Yes, that's what she sounds just like her.
Do you want to tell me more? Like they just do these little one-liners, and Sheldon's like, well, actually, blah, 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 and they're like, I see, like they'll just do these little one-liners. So if you get really good at those one-liners, it's going to be a lot easier to tackle a bigger script the next time. Yeah. Yeah. So what would you say is maybe the number one thing that stands out to you that you're like, okay, I want to remember especially this or like these particular things?
Um, elongating something a bit more, trying to play around with the nasal versus back.
Mm,
Like I definitely can't really transition very well from the back to the front, like nasally
hmm.
down. So I think
Yeah.
focus on that.
Okay. I think something that might help, I feel like when you focus more on like just bringing the character to life, that's really helpful to you. So maybe you focus on things like when are they trying to be polite? When are they very like strong and confident? And when are they sassy? Like I feel like those kind of emotional contexts will help you to kind of discern where to do what and give you just kind of more of a feel for it. Because if Mary is being very polite and demure and capable and helpful at church, she might be one way. But then when she's being stern, she might be a totally different way. And then she might be whining a bit. I'm so tired. Can't you drive him? Like think about the different contexts and when she's being kind of sassy with her mama, like things like that. Like, well, mama, I didn't want to be like you. Well, I think you turned out just fine. I turned out all right. I might have turned out better. Like when's she gonna be sassy? When's she gonna be more polite? And, you know, I'm a good Christian Southern woman, and when she's gonna be stubborn, think about the context, and I think that'll help too with kind of the flavor and the vocal tone. Yeah. Awesome. Well, this was very fun. So, yeah, so watch some more Young Sheldon this week and practice some of those zingy one-liners, and we'll come back to it. Just watch. Now I'm going to be talking like this the rest of the night.
Welcome.
Why, thank you. So thoughtful. It's funny whenever I talk to any of my dad's family, because they're from the South, I start
taking on that.
Yeah, but like, wow, that's a big old ice cream sundae you got there, And it's like, where'd that come from? And then I'll talk to my mom's family and I'm like, oh, sure, you betcha. Don't you know? Oh, yeah, and it's like, so I'm this strange hodgepodge.
Works in your favor.
Yeah, I guess so. Alrighty, well, have a wonderful evening and rest of your week. Happy Independence Day last weekend. Hope you had a wonderful time and good holiday. I'm like, wow, that was just, I'm like, it feels like that was a while ago. It was just like just behind us. Yeah, so hope you had a wonderful time and I hope you have a great rest of your week and I'll plan to see you next Tuesday unless something changes, okay? All right, I'll see you then. Bye, Shamara.